So we are back to the Spirits book. We are on book 2, still chapter 1, and we are going to, we spent last week talking and studying the perispirit, or our spiritual body. And today we are going to start studying the spirit hierarchy, which is a classification of the different levels in spiritual evolution that the spirits have. It's important to remember here a couple of things, right? That this is a hierarchy that was organized by Kardec and was instructed by the spirits, but we have to remember, as our good friend Julio used to say, let us not put things in boxes and close the boxes, right? So when we divide these spirits in classes that we are going to study here, let us remember that these boxes are open, that this is a classification that we are doing for better understanding of our better understanding of the different types of spirits. And above all, remember that these orders of spirits, Kardec and the spirits refers a lot about spirit communications. So the communications we receive from the spirits, mostly that Kardec was receiving at that time, and this type of communication that composed the Spirits book and other spiritist literature. That's how we divide the spirits that are communicating according to their degree of evolution, which in the end is what counts here in this hierarchy. So let us start. Philip, you do it for us?
Certainly. Different order of spirits. Are all spirits equal, or is there a spirit hierarchy? There are varying degrees according to the level of purification that they have attained. Next one.
No, just a little thing here that is important. Level of purification. The evolution that really matters is the moral evolution. The intellectual evolution is important. We have two wings. Without both wings working together, we cannot fly. So we need to evolve on both sides, the moral and the intellectual side. But the intellectual one is easier to evolve. And as Elmo likes to present to us, intellectual learning is an accumulation of learning. You are just adding things on what you already know. The moral evolvement is harder because you have to eliminate imperfections, eliminate your vices. So that makes a lot more difficult. So at our level of evolution, we see spirits that are more evolved intellectually and not morally. So the level of purification here is mostly in the moral side, not 100%, of course, but it's mostly on the moral side, the evolvement of the spirit. More morally evolved spirits are at a higher level in the spirit hierarchy. Okay. Next.
97. Is there a set number of orders or degrees of purification among spirits? The number is unlimited because there is no marked line between the different degrees of elevation, as there are no fixed or arbitrary divisions among spirits. There may be a greater or lesser number of orders depending on the point of view from which they are contemplated. If we consider the general characteristics of spirits, we may reduce them to three principal orders. The highest rank is held by those who have reached purification. These are the pure spirits. In the second rank, we have those who have reached the middle of the ladder. These spirits are mainly concerned with doing good. The third or lowest rank comprises those who are towards the bottom of the scale, the imperfect spirits. They are characterized by ignorance, a penchant for malevolence, and all the low passions that hinder their progress.
Okay, so first thing that the Spirit tells us here is that the degree, in terms of degree of purification, the number is unlimited. We could say that there is a degree for each individual. If we go, if we want really to be very picky, because no one is equal to one another. Our levels of evolution are completely different from the ones next to us in terms of moral and intellectual, and so the number is unlimited. But the Spirit said, if we are going to divide here in general terms, we could say that we have three main orders of spirits. So the highest rank, the perfect spirits, the spirits that have reached perfection, the spirits that no longer need reincarnation, and the spirits that work directly with the Creator in the creation. So these are the pure spirits. In the second rank are the spirits that are already at a level that their main concern is doing good. So these are spirits where the spiritual side prevails over the material side. They are more concerned about the well-being of their fellow spirits than of themselves. They already reached the level that the self has become less important than the collective. And then the third or lowest rank, which is where we all find ourselves, are those that are called imperfect spirits. We are still think about ourselves first, ourselves second, ourselves third, and then maybe our loved ones. We still already have, many of us, and we'll see in the subdivisions, have already an inkling of doing good, of trying to improve ourselves, are working towards improving ourselves, but we still fall prey to our imperfections, to our selfish, to our jealousy, and all other imperfections that characterizes imperfect spirits. Okay, so I forgot to say here that the only perfect spirit we have in our group is Paco, right? Of course, as he always says. Any questions, comments here? Okay, all right, let's continue then.
Do second order spirits only desire good, or do they also have the power to accomplish it? That power is proportionate to their degree of perfection. Some are distinguished by their scientific knowledge, others by their wisdom and kindness. Despite this, it is still necessary for all of them to experience trials.
Okay, so when we talk about the second order, the spirits that think about the collective before themselves, that are morally more evolved, the question that Kardec asks if they have the power to accomplish it. And we know by the books of André Luiz that we have read, and the books by Divaldo and Chico, that all the spirits that we read about in those books, there are some that are in this category. there are no perfect spirits there. So there are all spirits that still need to reincarnate, spirits that still need to evolve, but already reached a level that they can use their experience and their love to help others and to be of assistance to others. But they still need to experience trials. And here, let us remember the concept of trials and atonements or trials and expiations, right? What's the difference? A trial is a challenge that you have to face in order to evolve. That is, it's not a consequence of something that you have done wrong in the past. It's not a consequence of mistakes we made. It's an opportunity to learn and grow, while expiations or atonements are consequences of our own actions in previous existences or in this very existence that we have to face the consequences. So what they are saying here is that these spirits, they still have to go through trials because they still need to evolve. And you only evolve by going through trials. And they will come to a new incarnation and they'll face the trials necessary for their evolvement. Okay? Again, I said this in the beginning, a lot of people joined after I spoke, so let us try not to put in boxes these categories. Let us try not to try to put ourselves within a specific category, because we are all a mixture of different categories of spirits. And when Kardec and the spirits talk about these spirits, he's talking about spirits that are giving communications mostly, okay? But of course, we are all spirits, we are all the same, so this applies to us also. But the definitions that we are going to see here are by analyzing the mediumistic phenomena or manifestations that we have in our daily experiences with the spiritual world. Okay. Doctor, yes.
I have a question.
Sure.
Yeah. Now, the same way that we are differentiating spirits, can we also differentiate dimensions, like the planet Earth as a dimension is in the third rank?
Yes, the worlds, and we'll study that. The worlds also, you have primitive worlds of trials and atonements or trials and expiations, worlds of regeneration, happy worlds, and perfect worlds. So there are still, the worlds evolve also. So Earth is going through the transition from planet of trials and atonements or trials and expiations to a world of regeneration. What is the difference? A world of trials and atonements, evil prevails over good. A world of regeneration, good prevails over evil. It's not that you won't have evil in a world of regeneration. So when we are moving into a world of regeneration, evil still exists, but it's just that good will prevail over evil. And again, we have this in our own planet, right? You think we mentioned this many times. We have countries that you can say that they are countries that are already in a world of regeneration, right? You know, the happiest countries in the world, the more advanced, like Denmark or New Zealand, the population follow the rules. The population tries to be of a more unified society, but there's still evil. There's still people there that commit crimes, commit horrible things. So that's the example of a world of regeneration, right? Most of the population or the inhabitants will work towards the good of all, but some are still less evolved spirits that are placed as an opportunity to evolve, and some do and some fail. Now, as we move from one world to another, there is also the transition of spirits from one world to another. So spirits that can no longer stay or do not belong to a world of regeneration, because of their vibrational level, they will move to another world of trials and atonements, trials and expiations. So yes, worlds also have hierarchy and classifications. Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else? No. Okay. 99.
Are all third order spirits essentially bad? No. Some are neutral, not doing any good or bad. In contrast, others take pleasure in wickedness and are delighted when they find an opportunity to do wrong. Others may be flippant or mischievous rather than malicious. They amuse themselves by perplexing human beings on whom they are able to act and annoying them for their own pleasure.
So again, a big congregation of spirits in this third order, spirits that are still imperfect spirits, and not all of them are bad. Some are neutral, as they say. Depends on the examples they have. They will follow doing good or doing bad. I was watching a lecture this week talking about the immigration of spirits between one world and another. Just continuing what I was telling Paco, and he was telling that the spirits as Earth moves into a world of regeneration, which is also not something that will happen overnight. It's a transition that people say that some spirits say that's already happening. We are already in that process. The latest book from Divaldo is called On the Way to the World of Regeneration. So, we are on the way there, as former president of the Brazilian Spirited Federation used to tell us, right? Past midnight is already a new day, but it's very dark. So a world of regeneration have already started, but we still cannot see it because we are still in the dark. So he said that the spirits that no longer will be able to stay here on planet Earth are not these neutral spirits that are just following others, that sometimes do good, sometimes do bad, or spirits that do act in their inferior instincts and then repent and then try to improve. These are not the spirits that will be left behind. The spirits that will not have an opportunity to continue here on this planet are spirits that do evil and take pleasure in doing it. The spirits that have no remorse, the spirits that cause harm to others and have no regrets, that think that they are doing what's best, for them. So these are the spirits that are going to have problems in staying here. So, and the vast majority, and he said specifically, and I'll repeat here, all of us that are here are not in any risk, unless we change, of not continuing here in this planet, because the simple fact that we are here trying to learn, try to better ourselves through these studies, through the understanding of the spiritual life, better understanding of ourselves, we are already, even living with our imperfections and with our inferiority, making an effort. So there is no reason for us to not have the opportunity of continuing in this and on planet Earth as it moves to a world of regeneration. So yes, your next reincarnation will be on Earth, very likely. Okay. Questions, comments here? No? Okay, now you have a long part to read, Philip.
Spirit hierarchy. Preliminary observations. Spirits are classified based on the degree of their advancement, the qualities they have acquired, and the imperfections they still possess. This classification is by no means absolute. It is only a summary of the typical character of each category, for each flows seamlessly into the one immediately above it. Specific characteristics of the successive categories blend into one another, as is often the case in nature, as seen in the colors of the rainbow and the phases of a human life. Consequently, spirits may be divided into a number of classes depending on one's perspective, as in the case of any other scientific classification system. The systems adopted may be more or less comprehensive, rational, or appropriate for understanding, but regardless of this, they have no effect on the facts of science. When questioned in this respect, spirits vary as to the number of categories into which they are divided. This is not a matter of practical importance. Too much emphasis is placed on this contradiction by those who fail to realize that disembodied intelligences completely dismiss any form of orthodoxy. For them, the meaning of a statement is the only important factor. They leave its form as well as the choice of terms and classification to us, basically all that is required to establish systems. We should also never lose sight of the fact that spirits, just like physical beings, can be very unaware. We can never be too careful in believing that all spirits know everything simply because they are spirits. Classification requires a method, analysis, and thorough knowledge of the subject. Spirits who possess only a small amount of knowledge are as incapable as unaware human beings in terms of grasping the whole scope of any subject, let alone formulating a system. They have no idea, or at best, an imperfect one, regarding any sort of classification. All spirits superior to them appear to be of the highest order, because they are incapable of distinguishing between the various shades of knowledge, capacity, and integrity by which they are separated, much like a savage would not be able to distinguish between the characteristics of civilized people. Even those who are capable of making this perception may vary in their comprehension of details according to their unique perspective, especially in regard to a matter that is not unconditional. Lioness, Jesui, and Tournefort each have their own classification system, but the nature of botany has not changed due to this variation between botanists. They have not invented plants or their characteristics, only observed certain analogies, according to which they have formed certain groups or classes. We have proceeded in the same fashion. We have not invented spirits or their characteristics, only seen and observed them. We have then judged them by their own words and actions, and then classified them by similarity. Our classification is based on the information provided by them. Spirits generally acknowledge the existence of three primary categories or main divisions. The bottom of the hierarchy is made up of imperfect spirits who are characterized by the predominance of material instincts over the moral nature and the propensity to be wicked. Second-degree spirits are good spirits characterized by the predominance of the moral nature over material instincts and the desire for good. The first or highest category consists of those who are pure spirits and have attained the supreme degree of perfection. This division of spirits into three separate categories is perfectly logical. And under this general classification, we only need to highlight subdivisions within these three categories. We have done this with the assistance of the spirits themselves, whose benevolent teachings have never failed us. Using this table, it is easy to determine the superiority or inferiority of the spirits with whom we may communicate, and consequently, the respect and confidence to which they are entitled. Determining these points is a key to Spiritism, as by enlightening us in regard to the intellectual and moral inequalities of spirits, it can explain the inconsistencies presented by spirit communications. We have, however, remarked that spirits do not always belong exclusively to one specific class, as their progress is only accomplished gradually. They may display the characteristics of several categories, in a fact that is easily reconciled by scrutinizing their language and their actions.
Okay, thanks, Philip. Sorry for the long text. So first, this was written by Kardec, okay? This is not a communication from the spirits. We can see by some of the things that Kardec writes here that it's him writing, not the spirits. It's more of what we already discussed here, that the classification is not absolute. We are just trying to divide to understand better. Again, as Julio used to say, right? It's our human characteristic to divide things to better understand the whole. But the division, we make these divisions. They are not written in stone, or they are not the absolute truth. They are a means for us to understand better what are we dealing with. So here Kardec, especially when Kardec talks about the communications of the spirits, because if you pay attention to this text written by Kardec, he's really talking about the spirits that are giving communications and how you divide those spirits. So he talks about spirits that, that he compares it with science, right? When he talks about these three names here that Philip had a little bit trouble talking about, Linnaeus, Jussier, and Tournefort, there are three botanists that had different classifications of plants. It doesn't mean that they invented plants or they, or anything different than they are organizing what they have learned, and similarities, differences, and we divide according to the different classes. You can think of dogs. You have different breeds, but in the end, they're all dogs, right? You don't not call one dog just because it's a big one or a small one, right? The biggest dog and the smallest dog, they are still dogs. So what Kardec is saying here is, yes, we create classifications, we create, the spirits help us create divisions for us to better understand what type of spirit is this spirit communication? And we'll see in the subdivisions that we will see different types of spirits. But one thing we have to always remember, that the division are not divisions that separate spirits completely, because in the end, we all blend together, right? So if I look at the different characteristics of spirits, I'll find myself in many of those subdivisions of the imperfect spirits. When you look at the more evolved spirits, the second order, then if you look deep into yourself, it's going to be more difficult for you to find yourself there. If you do an honest self-analysis, right? But it doesn't prevent us from having already some characteristics of more evolved spirits. We evolve in different levels, so we may have some intellectual abilities of more evolved spirits, and even some moral evolution of more evolved spirits, but you'll be very few and far between, as the expression says, right? So he goes back to the three different categories here, that the main divisions, but again, thinking about the bottom, which is ourselves, right, the imperfect spirits, the predominance of material instincts over the moral nature. Again, we think of our survival and ourselves before we think of others. Are we all here on earth like this? No, we already have some examples of those that work for the benefit of others before working for themselves. Many of them unknown to us, but some examples that we have, like a Mother Teresa, a Gandhi, Francisco Xavier, which we can guarantee that are spirits that belong to the second division of spirits that are of a more evolved moral nature, right? The first, the highest category, those that are pure spirits, we have only one example here on earth, which is the governor of the planet, Jesus, that incarnated more than 2,000 years ago. Again, did not reincarnate, because a perfect spirit no longer needs to reincarnate, but a perfect spirit can incarnate on a mission, on a special work, that it's what Jesus came to do here amongst us. Okay, so again, Kardec talks about the communications of spirits, right? So the spirits with whom they communicate, this division hierarchy helps understand the type of spirit that is communicating. Remembering always that when we go back to the spiritual world, there is no change whatsoever in ourselves except the loss of the physical body. Of course, the trauma can create some changes, small changes in our beliefs, in our understanding, and even in regards to regrets that we will only find when we are back in the spiritual world. But basically, we are the same. So if I go back to the spiritual world today and I give a communication tomorrow, it's not going to be better than what I'm telling you guys today. It's going to be according to what the knowledge I have today, right? So it is very important to understand that. I may talk a little bit about the spiritual world with a different view because I'm there, but the knowledge and especially the moral evolvement is exactly the same that I have it here today. Okay, I think that's it on this. Any questions, comments? Oh, everybody very quiet today. What's going on? Either not interesting or...
I have a question, Joao.
Go ahead, Paco.
do all spirits at one point in time, they were all in the bottom of the hierarchy?
Thank you. Very good point that I forgot to mention. Yes, we were all created simple and ignorant. God, being perfect and perfectly just, would not create spirits that are more advanced than others. We all start from the same, and we evolve according to our own free will. So on our journey, we start to differentiate from each other. But the beginning is the same for everyone, and the end also is the same for everyone. We are all going to become one day perfect spirits, even if it takes forever, but the forever will end one day. Some will take longer, some will take less longer. But, as Emmanuel tells us, we are closer to God than we are from our first incarnation as an individual spirit. So we already went a long journey. But yes, we are all created simple and ignorant. There is no spirit that was created perfect or anything like that. The so-called angels, the so-called perfect spirits, one day they were simple and ignorant, billions and billions of years ago, maybe. If you consider our Jesus, the governor of our planet, that he has been taking care of Earth since its creation, and Jesus has also started as a simple and ignorant spirit, but reached perfection before Earth was created, to be able to take responsibility for the planet. But yes, all of us, same. Otherwise, there will be no divine justice. Again, it's just reason and logic that tells us that. Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Elmo, you have sound today? You're there?
I'm sorry, I have
Yes.
what?
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious if you had the microphone working today.
Yeah, I have it.
Because the other day you couldn't say anything, and we found it only by the end. So I just wanted to make sure.
This topic is very straightforward. It's hard to comment. It's a straightforward reading. The only comment that I would make is at the very beginning, just to make sure that we understand that the simple does not, and ignorant does not means with a tendency to evil. It just means simple without much understanding of anything. And actually the tendency to stray from the right line that leads to progress happens later on when you already have a good degree of free will that you can actually make more decisions, and a good degree of intellectual progress also that leads us to the reason, say, how can I profit from doing this and that? How can I make myself better or have more than the others? It already requires that degree of moral, of intellectual progress that leads us to make those mistakes. So when we are really simple and evil in the very beginning, there is no malice, there is no evil there yet.
Thank you, Amo. And actually, I was going to comment here. We saw the word savage in the middle there, Daniela, and I made a note of that already. So to change in the next edition, okay, to primitive.
That's true. Very good.
Yeah. Okay, so let's start from the bottom up, right? Third order, Imperfect Spirits.
General characteristics. Matter has a predominant influence over the spirit. The spirit has a propensity to do wrong and is marked by ignorance, pride, selfishness, and all the related vile passions. They intuitively realize the existence of God, but they do not understand God. They are not all entirely bad. Many of these spirits are more frivolous, lacking reasoning power, and love mischief rather than being downright malicious. Some do neither good nor bad, but the very fact that they do not do good is a glaring indication of their subservience. In contrast, others take immense pleasure in doing wrong and are thrilled when they discover an opportunity to do wrong. A certain amount of intelligence is often associated with malice and the love of mischief in these spirits. However, regardless of their intellectual development, their ideas lack elevation and their sentiments are inferior overall. Their knowledge of the spirit world is narrow, and what they do know is muddled with the prejudices of the physical life. They give false and incomplete notions of the spirit world, but an intent observer may always find the validation of great truths proclaimed by higher spirits, no matter how imperfect their communication may be. Their language reveals their character. Every spirit who betrays malicious intentions may be ranked in the third order. Every bad thought suggested to our minds comes from a spirit of this order. The happiness enjoyed by good spirits causes everlasting torment on spirits of the third order. It stems from the anguish produced by envy and jealousy. They retain the memory and perception of physical suffering, and this impression is often more painful than reality. They suffer both from the misfortunes they have themselves endured and those that they have caused to others. As this torture persists for a very long time, they feel that they are destined to suffer for eternity. God allows them to believe in this eternal suffering as a form of atonement.
Okay.
They may be.
Yeah, then it's a difficult continuation. So remember, we're talking here, Kardec is talking here about the spirits that are communicating, right? The spirits that are in the spiritual world. So that's why a lot of things that we read here refers to spirits that are living in the spirit world and are giving communications. So these are spirits that we will find in the lower zones, where they are still attached to matter. So matter has a predominant influence. They have a propensity to do wrong or to not know how to do right. So spirits that are still dominated by the inferior passions, right? Ignorance, pride, selfishness. So some of them deny completely the existence of God. Some of them realize the existence of God, but of course they don't understand God. We here cannot understand God yet. We try to explain, we try to discuss it, but we cannot understand God. So they are not, as Kardec says here, they are not entirely bad. It's just some of them are frivolous, meaning their focus is not on their moral evolvement. It's on their immediate pleasures, immediate needs. They don't have a capacity of reason very well. So a lot of them neither do good or bad. They're just there following whoever they think will give them a better opportunity to have an advantage. Of course, their knowledge of the spirit world is narrow because they are located, let's say, in the lower zones. They cannot see anything above them. The only thing that they can see is the spirits around them. So their thoughts are about their physical life they left behind with all their prejudices. So when they talk about the spirit world, what they're going to tell? They're going to tell where they are. There's not much that they can tell us about the more elevated places because they've never been there and they have no knowledge of it. They may pretend to be what they are not, And if we study deeply the communication, we will find these characteristics by their language or by their, sometimes they write a lot without saying much. And these are spirits that influence ourselves in our daily lives to incline us to do to choose the wrong path, to do bad things, right? When they see the spirits, the good spirits or more elevated spirits, what they have is jealousy, right? And they're still struggling with the suffering of their last physical existence. And with that, they have these impressions that are painful. And when we have in our mediumship meetings that the spirits that come, the suffering spirits that we try to help and assist, they come with these physical pains, this remembrance of their experiences in the physical life, and that causes a lot of pain. Of course, when Kardec says God allows them to believe in this eternal suffering as a form of atonement, the natural laws and their lack of understanding of us being eternal souls is what causes them to think that their suffering is eternal. And again, whenever we are suffering here on earth, we are struggling with suffering, with pain, we sometimes think that it will last forever. So that's the eternal suffering that Kardec mentions here, okay? So, we shouldn't be trying to box ourselves into these types of spirits. Again, we have characteristics of different characteristics from different classes, say here, okay? Questions, comments? Okay, so now we're going to see a division that the spirits said divide these in 5 main classes, okay? Let's talk about each one of them.
Hey, João.
Yes, Sanat.
Just wondering, because I don't remember, because in Portuguese, because we always say lower zone or umbral or whatever, but in Portuguese they have like different names for the lower zones. Do we have that in English as well?
What different names they have in Portuguese?
Like
Umbral?
the abyss, the darkness, and
again, it's the same thing as the categories here of the that we are dividing, right? It's the level of vibration and the spirits that are there. We call, I think Luis may know the different names that we have in Portuguese and relate to English. I'm not recalling exactly, but we know. I remember him talking about the lower zones and things like that, right, Luis?
Yes, but I don't know how to say umbral in English as well.
Yeah, we say lower zones in general. Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't think I can provide much more light into this. I'm sorry.
Yeah, when we actually started studying the book Liberation, right? And Liberation is a journey to the lower zones, right? We already had some experience in the greater world when André Luiz finds his grandfather there, right? He's in a dark place, and the mentor doesn't allow André Luiz to go into the caverns, to the abyss, because she said that he was not prepared, and then he meets his grandfather, which is surrounded by spirits that still think that they possess the gold, so they are not suffering spirits that acknowledge their suffering. They are spirits that are still inclined to their inferior passions and live for their inferior passions. Of course, these spirits won't be in the same place as a spirit like André Luiz that we find himself in the lower zones in the beginning of Nosso Lar, which is already a place where suffering spirits predominate, but there is no evil guide there like Gregorio that we'll find in Liberation, organized spirits to practice evil that we'll find in the deeper lower zones. But I don't know, Renato, if there is any, even in Portuguese, I don't know the definitions, to be very honest. Elmo, do you have anything here to add?
No, I think for that we could go back to the example that Kardec used with the botanists. Different scholars of a field of study will create classifications and divisions according to their own view of that specific sciences. So we may have different authors, rightly so, once they're scholars, when they study, when they understand it, they create this didactic divisions to help us to understand things, that there is gradations in different areas. In the lower zone, there will be some gradations, and the more elevated place, there will be some gradations, and some will give names to those gradations or not, but it's pretty not really significant. I really like Kardec's separation of spirits in the spiritual world in the book Heaven and Hell, when there is happy and unhappy, period. But the happy ones and the unhappy ones. And as you read the book, you can understand why that only those two differentiate is sufficient.
Yeah. Again, it goes back to what we've been discussing since the beginning, right? When we try to create too many boxes and to do too many different classifications, we end up putting ourselves in a corner, right? Without being able to completely explain, because all explanations of different categories, or as Renato was asking, the lower zones, different levels of the lower zones will be incomplete, right? Because we don't know how a spirit end up in one place. We know how a spirit end up in one place or another according to their level of vibration, but we don't know specifically where each spirit is going to find itself when it's back in the spiritual world, right? We know that more evolved spirits will find themselves in happier places, but the specific happier place that the spirit is going to find themselves, we don't know. And we see by many of the books that we read from Francisco Xavier and from Divaldo about spiritual colonies and experiences that more evolved spirits have in the spiritual world. André Luiz talked about the place that his mother lives, that is more evolved than Nosso Lar. But it's always a problem when we try to put ourselves into boxes and divided boxes, because it creates confusion and doubts. I'm not going to start here the 5 main classes because we have only 4 minutes left. I prefer that we start next week, so we go over each of these. So in total, there are 10 classes, right? So the 5 are here on the imperfect, then 4 on the mid-level, and 1 on the only 1 on the perfect, because it can only be 1. You cannot be 2 different degrees of perfect spirits, right? You can only have 1 degree. So, but we'll go over them next week. So if anyone has any additional question or comment. Otherwise, we're going to stop here.
Yeah, I asked the question because I'm rereading, restudying, everything. So it changed my perception. Since we don't have a word for the umbral, it changed my perception. And not that,
In what sense?
because I was seeing like a really bad place that most of us are afraid and try to avoid. And in the period that if you end up there, the period that you're going to be there depends on whatever you did here. But it's actually, from what I understood, um it's not like a bad thing, like the abyss and the darkness, stuff like that. It's more of a, like in Catholic Church, the purgatory thing, but not like permanently. Is a transition time that you need to kind of release or clean yourself before you go to no solar, transitory house, those kind of place. I was seeing more of an idea of a really bad place like the other two that I mentioned, but it's not. Since we only we refer as lower zone all the time, it kind of mixed together with everything, at least in my perception. And the separation, I understand that we cannot put in boxes, but the separation for me helps to understand those places according to the vibrational the vibration of the spirits that you mentioned.
Yeah, it's important that we separate, and it's important to understand the differences. But talking about ourselves, the very fact that we are here trying to understand more about our spiritual nature, we are eager to learn more. With this only should take us at least to a transitory house of assistance, because we are prepared. It's not that if you discarnate today, you wake up tomorrow after the scare that the big scare, because you were not prepared to do that. But after a certain time, you understand and you accept the reality. You understand the reality. So the knowledge helps you move to a better place. Only the knowledge. Of course, the moral aspect is important, but we are all here trying to improve ourselves, to be better than we were yesterday, and that it's the characteristic of the true spiritist, according to Kardec, and the characteristic of those who are going to find themselves in protected places, in places that they are going to receive all the assistance need to move forward. So I am a firm believer that none of us here are going to find ourselves left alone in the lower zones unless we change. We have our free will. We haven't finished yet this journey. If we change our path on this journey, maybe. But if we continue on the path we are, I'm sure that we are all going to find ourselves in places where we will have the assistance we need to continue moving forward. Luis.
If I may, just 2 points. I think I just don't want to lose my points here. One is I believe that what we learn from the spirits is that there's no permanent hell, meaning it's always transitory. It might take longer or a shorter time to evolve, but it is always a movement and transition towards improvement. So there's no analogy between those Catholic or other religions' image of eternity somewhere. We have been taught that this does not exist, in my view, João. And the second point, Renato, is that the thing with names is the boxing thing that João mentioned. The moment we place a name into something, we create a concept and we sort of get limited. I always say that from nosso lar to those places in Revelation, it's all umbral, but it's just a name, umbral, high umbral, low umbral, middle umbral. So maybe we should, not not get so fixated on names and try to understand there are a whole rainbow of levels. And depending on your perspective, we don't see the whole rainbow. We see just a small part of it. And that's it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, thanks, Luis. I agree. Okay, so in the end, we don't know, and when we went over a little bit. So stopping now here, let's talk about what we have first on this weekend. On Saturday, we have a lecture with David Cohen. David Cohen is the co-director of the Spiritist Group of Montana. And, you know, for a change is a Spiritist group opened by Americans, ran by Americans, and that had no Brazilians involved, which is a rarity here in this country. I think it's the only group that was had no Brazilians involved in the creation. So David will be talking to us on Saturday, learning to apply the golden rule. Okay. He lives in Montana. He was with us here in the center a couple of years ago, him and his wife. So you are all invited. Now for our, this Sunday, we have On the Way to the Light, is the third Sunday of the month. And talking about Sundays, I just want to mention that we have a small change in schedule. So this May has 5 Sundays. So the 4th Sunday, we'll do our Q&A. On the 5th Sunday, we'll study the book Liberation instead of the first Sunday of June, because on the first weekend of June, we have the 15th Spirited Symposium, that is June 5 and 6, from 2 to 5:30. And like all this is going to be a virtual symposium, and like all the others, with the participation of speakers from all over the country. And of course, Jara will be the main responsible for the event as the president of the United States Spiritist Federation. And we'll be there participating in the Ask Me Anything part, the Q&A of the symposium. I'll be there taking part of it. Okay, so you're all invited. Mark on your calendars, June 5th and 6th, from 2 to 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. Okay, and let me see if I have anything else. I think that's it. Oh no, yes, Daniela. This coming Wednesday, we start our book club again. We restart our book club, this time virtual book club. It's going to be every Wednesday from 7 to 8 p.m. Daniela Pamplona is going to be responsible for it. For those that don't know, here she is. And the first book, the book we're going to study is And Life Goes On, not study, but discuss it, right? It's Then Life Goes On, which is the last book of the André Luiz collection, Life in the Spiritual World. It's a very interesting romance, with a lot of information for those that haven't read it. I suggest that you join the group because I'm sure it's going to be very interesting. So good luck with it, Danny, and we'll be here supporting. Same meeting, same everything, same Zoom. Whenever for you to join, everything is the same. Okay.
Oh, I have a question. Do we need do we need to prepare? Do we need to read ahead of time, or are we going to read together?
Daniela.
My suggestion is to read before.
Okay.
So I'm not planning to read word by word like we do in a study. My idea is you read before and we go chapter by chapter. So we discuss, chapter by chapter, but I'm not planning to read together. Let's see how it goes like that. So
a couple of chapters before the meeting, the first meeting.
Yeah. Okay. And then we discuss that. Whatever it stands out or comes up to you, we talk about it. Because the study, we go like reading word by word, right? So it's a little
Yeah,
different.
yeah. Okay, got it.
Yeah, you know, my suggestion here, based on a book that we are studying together, the new book by Divaldo, that we have a big group that is actually was led by Sueli Caldas, that discarnated yesterday. So we were left orphans in the study, but the study will continue with her, giving her support from the spiritual world. Someone at the beginning of the meeting talks about the chapter, gives a little bit of a brief of the chapter for 5 minutes. So people that haven't had the opportunity to read are not completely lost. So it's just a suggestion, Daniela, for you to think about.
Yeah, and also like if you miss a meeting when you come back, you know, I plan to review a little bit the chapters that we talked about, the summary, so you can't, if you miss 1 or 2 meetings, you are not like,
Lost. Yeah,
lost in the loop. So you can go back.
got it.
Thanks, Danny. Thanks, Anata. Okay, Carol, can you do a final prayer?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, John and Elmo. Appreciate it. Infinite Creator and Supreme Intelligence, we are grateful tonight to be together for our study of the Spirits book, Chapter 1, in which we are studying the general order of spirits. We have learned generally the order is the pure spirits, the middle ladder spirits, and the imperfect spirits. However, we should not box ourselves in on the totality of these categories. We know that we are here purposefully to improve, to learn, to study, to reflect, and to continue to grow each day. We know that as we do this, the earth is also evolving with us. And as we are on various planets, the same would happen there. We are grateful to have our spiritual benefactors, the good spirits, the mentors, the healers, the helpers who are with us this evening, helping to guide us, helping to inspire us, to give us greater strength, give us greater courage, and to help us hone in to these studies with a little bit more depth and detail. We are grateful to be together through the medium of Zoom. We are grateful for all those who are attending and who are participating, and we are thankful for the abilities to have these studies at this time in our incarnation. We give thanks again to the love and light of Christ, the peace within. May we ask to receive this on a regular basis as we do our part to share the blessings with others through our discernment. We are grateful for all that we have received and all that we will continue to receive going forward. May we be blessed, and we humbly ask for safety and protection as we go forth to family, friends, loved ones, and coworkers. We are never alone, and may we go more deeply into our studies, our prayers, and our mindfulness throughout the week. We ask now, as we end this portion of the meeting, to go forth, to remind ourselves to be beacons of light and to do courageous things in terms of service and charity. Go forth now in peace, so be it.